fellow listeners and participants on this platform. We are here this morning to look at a critical issue in terms of quality of education delivery in Nigeria. We are zeroing on teacher education. That no education
to any what face is silent.
Quality. And for teachers to be able to do what they're supposed to do, they must be properly prepared and then encouraged and released into the school system. In this country, we've been teaching and teacher education for quite some time, since formal education process took off. Now, teacher education, we selected programs that are organized, implemented at different national levels with a view to producing quality teachers in the school system. We had the teachers go-to program, which was phased out a few years back. We also have teachers the colleges of education set up to produce teachers for the primary school level. We also have the colleges of education and the faculties of education where degree holders in the field of teacher education are exist. In addition to faculties of education, we have institutes of education where teachers are produced. Schools of education in polytechnics, in colleges of technology, also teachers. Now, this morning we want to look at various issues that border on quality of teacher and teacher education in this country. Today, we're joined by eminent Nigerians who are authorities in the field of teacher education, who are going to speak to us from different perspectives on how to ensure that we have quality teachers in the school system. Immediately after this introduction, I'll be joined by Professor Olusegun, the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Teachers Council of Nigeria, going to speak to us on various issues and the efforts his council is making to improve the quality of teacher education programs in the country. Immediately after him, we'll be inviting Dr. Babarinde, the immediate past director of the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning of the University of Ibadan, to also speak to us. He'll be answering many questions that also will enlighten us further on what's been done to ensure that the quality of teachers that are produced in our institutions is the type that will be able to drive education to the next level in this country. We also will listen to a perspective from a student teacher in training, Victor Ajao, would also be speaking to us. I'd like to welcome you to this platform, an exciting time together.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Professor Josiah Ajiboye to also speak to us and then answer questions.
There was a problem with the network. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
We're on to you, sir.
With the network, I could not hear you very well. But let me say that...
Speak up, sir.
Teachers Regional Council of Nigeria by an act of
Okay. Sorry, sir. We invite Dr. Baradi to also speak to us. The benefit of his immediate past experience as director, the efforts his center made towards improving the quality of teachers that have been produced in the system, and then in a global, from a global perspective on what he thinks should be done to address the problem in that sector. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'd like to start by saying that teacher education is an important issue in the country today, since no system of education can go beyond the quality of the teachers. And I'd like to start by, first of all, exploring the question, who is a teacher? You will notice that if you talk about development, development is based for human beings on learning and education. Animals learn and survive on instinct, but man can only survive by learning and education. And if education is not properly managed, then we cannot have development. But who are the people who make learning and education possible? Essentially, they are the teachers, you know, doing all sorts of things. Then we can begin to ask, who is a teacher? In the Nigerian setting, generally, we can say anybody who engages in teaching is a teacher. But it goes beyond that, because clergymen, parents, advisors, and so on can, as a result of that, lay claim to be teachers. But that can only be a definition of a teacher from the common man perspective or the layman's perspective. For a teacher from the professional point of view, a teacher is a person trained conventionally and certified officially to exercise the right of a teacher. And in a normal setting, conventional setting, he is more knowledgeable, wiser, and more mature than other members of the class. And to enable the teacher to be able to deliver that, he needs a combination of things. He needs a knowledge of subject matter. He also needs something more, which is pedagogy, the science or the heart of teaching, in order to be able to achieve learning. So for this business of teaching to be effective, we then need people who are, from the point of view of the professional point of view, you know, regarded as professionals who can deliver such mandate. Now, in Nigeria, different levels of education have been involved in the business of teaching and learning. But beyond the teaching and learning that everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is involved with, you have the professionals who must deliver on such mandate. It also leads to the other question. Is a teacher born or made? Those who think anybody can teach assume that a teacher is born and it is innate. But for the professionals, it is realized that because of the knowledge of subject matter and pedagogy, you cannot just assume that anybody can be a teacher. And that false concept prevails at different levels of education, whereby people are assumed to be able to teach as long as they have knowledge of subject matter, which is erroneous. So different levels of education, as the moderator has rightly pointed out, are involved in the preparation of professional teachers from the early childhood level up to tertiary level. It is only in this part of the world that people are let loose on hapless students who are not professionals. The fact that one is good in a subject is not sufficient to lay claim to the fact that one can be good in delivery. So a lot is expected when it comes to professional delivery, professional competence, and capacity to be able to effectively deliver as a professional teacher in this contemporary era. For now, if I would say that education has not met up with that level of profession, like in accountancy, medicine, law, you know, and some other profession in Nigeria. So we can describe education, teaching in Nigeria today as a profession in evolution. We still need to go a long way. TRC is doing a good job along that line now, but we need to go much further to ensure that it's only professionals who can deliver and who can take up the job of teaching, this noble profession, who can be involved at any level of education in the country. Thank you, the moderator, for now.
Yeah. Thanks so much, sir, for the very illuminating discussion on this important topic that we're sharing this morning. We want to thank you for the perspective from which you have spoken with us. We'll get back to you in the next couple of minutes. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, the moderator.
Okay. Now, we like to also, sir, according to, before you go, sir, I've been asked to ask you to come back to speak on what are your perspectives on the effort being made that the school system in Nigeria of teachers required in terms of number, not just anybody who feels that he can teach, finding himself in the classroom. What's been done and what should be done to ensure that it's those who are essentially qualified to be so-called that are in the school system in the country?
Thank you very much, the moderator. There's a lot that is involved when we want to talk about quality and quantity of teacher in our education system. And it is also a function of a number of factors. And that is why education faces a myriad of challenges in Nigeria, because it is controlled by some other factors outside of education. For example, the quality of teachers will be influenced by the quality of input into their training. That again will be influenced by the quantum of fund that is allocated to education. The proposed budget for 2018, Nigerian government has allocated 7% of its budget to education. So under such a situation, the amount that we trickle here into the training of teachers is bound to be low. So whereas we expect quality teacher education program from the colleges of education, from institutes of education, from faculties of education all over the country, the quantum of money that is available through the budgetary allocation is so low, and that is bound to affect the quality of teacher that we are going to produce. In terms of quantity also, there is approved ratio determined by research, teacher-student ratio at different levels of education. In other places, you have a ratio of 20 pupils to 1 teacher. At the highest level, you don't expect to have more than a teacher to 30, 40 students. But what do we have in most of our public schools today? You have 2 classes collapse into one, having about 100 pupils in a class, handled by just 1 teacher. When you have such a situation, the quality of teaching, the quality of delivery, and the quality of learning is bound to be affected. So in terms of outcome of research, what is expected is that the ratio of teacher to student should not be unduly high. At the lower level, you have 20 and so on. At the tertiary level, you also have ratio. That's why in the university level, they talk about FTE, the ratio of teacher to pupils in class. Although we can mitigate large classes through technology, but the environment of teaching has to be enabled so that technology can aid teachers to handle large number of pupils. If in a class, for example, you have monitors spread across the various angles of the lecture room, in case you are using a lecture room, for example, or you also have projections here and there, then a student can be handled in group. You can do group teaching. You can do individualized teaching. If each student has a monitor, you can do individualized teaching. But all that is a function of fund that is available to education. So those challenges are there. And that is why education in Nigeria is not doing much well, because of the absence of the enabling environment, which is also a function of the budgetary allocation to education, which is also a function of the priority that is, attached to education by the political leaders and elite in the country. Unfortunately, again, many of these elites don't have their children in public education. So in terms of political economy, you see that the ruling elite takes care of itself leaving the majority of Nigerians who have to patronize public schools to their own fate. And it's affecting the quality of education, it's affecting the future of the country, and we need to rise up to this, except we are playing with the future of the country. Thank you.
Thanks so much, sir. We will keep you on for a little longer because the next...
You are welcome.
Highly qualified teaching force for the education system in this country. What do you think can be done to improve on these two extremes, curriculum, delivery, and pedagogy, and quality of teacher education?
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Just as I've alluded earlier, for quality education, quality learning, from the perspective of the teacher, two key things are important. The subject matter, knowledge of the subject matter, whether the teacher is a teacher of mathematics, physics, chemistry, Yoruba, or religious study. He needs to be an expert in his or her subject.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. I just thank you for that brilliant contribution.
All right.
Education. So what do you think can be done to ensure that there's no this disconnection?
Yeah, there was a break in your last statement. Kindly repeat the question, please. Kindly repeat the question. Hello? Hello? Are you there? Hello? Webmaster, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, sir. We
Okay.
lost, we had problem with internet, but we're back now. Yeah,
Right.
I'm going to repeat the question I just asked. I said, what your perspective, how to address the seemingly disconnection between curriculum
so that's
teacher education and the eventual deliverables in terms of the pedagogy. There seems to be a disconnect. And what can we do? What can we do to ensure that what we actually designed
the
deliver? I give you an example, sir. I went to see a student who was going to practice a few days ago. I found out that for the first, I was rooted, on the spot for was wondering what happened, because in the curriculum design, the student will have been taught to control the classroom situation. So what to do to ensure curriculum is actually the program.
Thank you very much, moderator. Just as I alluded the earlier period in my submission, quality teaching is a function of knowledge of the subject matter as well as pedagogy. Pedagogy is the science, if you like, the heart of teaching. One cannot be effective without the knowledge of subject matter, whether in physics, chemistry, Yoruba, religious studies, name it. But knowledge of subject matter alone is not sufficient for a teacher to be able to deliver effectively in the classroom. What is necessary to add to that is pedagogy, which is the science or heart of teaching. And this is essentially what educational faculties, institutes of education, colleges of education, at the relevant education unit is expected to implant in the teachers in training. There's a lot that is involved when you have to prepare teachers. Unfortunately, because of the low level of expertise of the teachers themselves, the teachers who are to train teachers, what is given to the student is also not of the highest quality. And this demands effective training and retraining. Those of us who are already in the field of education, we should not sit back and think we already have it. There's a lot out there that we need to acquire. New knowledge, new innovation, great ideas in teaching and learning. It is only when we imbibe that we can translate that into the trainee teachers. For example, it is difficult to expect teachers to deliver effectively without adequate preparation in terms of teaching practice. Teaching practice can also be at two levels. You need micro-teaching, effective micro-teaching program, while the student teachers are still in school, so that they're exposed to the nitty-gritty of how to teach, the methodology, the strategies, the use of technology, as well as other materials to support the delivery. It is not only when student teachers go to the field that they begin to practice on helpless children. You need to have prepared them first and foremost within the school through micro-teaching program and all that. Eventually, they are sent to the schools for teaching practice. And through that, you ensure that they are correct and adequate supervision during teaching practice to ensure by teachers who are already in the schools, as well as their supervisors from the university or colleges, to also ensure that they do the right thing, they are corrected with love, with encouragement, with necessary incentive. But there are some other challenges making all of this difficult. Many of the faculties of education, there are no support and encouragement for the teacher trainers to do adequate things in terms of supervising the student teachers. Many of the faculties lack facilities to adequately prepare the student. Micro-teaching laboratories are non-existent. If you want to actually prepare students, a faculty will need several micro-teaching laboratories where so many students can actually go through training at the same time. You need a lot of support. You need a lot of gadget and technology support to drive teaching delivery. Then the organization of teaching practice itself. How many vehicles are available to support supervision? Of course, you can also leverage on technology. A webcam in every student classroom can capture what the student teacher is doing, where the professionals back in the university or the college can then look at later, assess, and use to correct the student. So a lot is involved. But behind all of this thing, the commitment of the professional teachers themselves, input from government and more input from the various institutions. When allocations are made, it is unfortunate that the allocation that goes into faculties of education and so on is not usually comparable to what goes to engineering, medicine, and so on, because it is assumed that they are teaching, you don't need much. Whereas, a teacher can afford to be careless with the preparation of his engineer, doctors, and lawyers. The effect is negative, but it's not as far-reaching as being careless with the preparation of teachers, because it's the teachers that will prepare the engineers of tomorrow, the doctors of tomorrow, the lawyers of tomorrow. They are also presiding not only on today, but they are also presiding over the future of the country. And that's how important, teacher education is. And every country, every government should pay adequate attention to its teacher education program if it must make progress in education as well as in national development. Thank you.
Thanks so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks so much, sir. We appreciate that level of contribution. We get back to you subsequently. Meanwhile, sir, we're going to bring in a student perspective so that we can also hear from them on what the way they see teacher education in terms of attraction into it, in terms of the challenges they are facing. We have with us on this platform Mr. Victor Adio, which is going to speak to us. And then after that, I will get back to you, sir. Thanks so much for the time.
Good morning.
Moderator, I suggest that the speakers sit on an elevated platform so that
you can see. Okay. Thank you so much. That's much better. Okay.
Good morning. I'll start from the perspective of students to the context of a teacher. Teachers, I would say, they are drivers of education, and they are people who have acquired knowledge and capable of transmitting the knowledge acquired through an effective and professional means. So I feel they are modest and knowledge addicts. So, there are various perspectives from which students, and it is seen that teaching and learning in Nigeria is fair. But though we have various competent teachers, but the learning environment, the classroom is not conducive for learning, and also there are no instructional materials. And it is well known that an effective learning can only take place when there are concrete materials that interpret the subject matters. So we students tend to remember more of what we can see and touch. And also this teaching and learning in Nigeria is also seen from the perspective of teachers in training, especially that it is upright. Teaching and learning in Nigeria is upright and well done from the perspective of teachers in training, because we are being engaged in various activities and practicals, and even field works. Departments in Nigerian universities, put teachers in training in various activities like observations, where 6 teachers will be observed in micro teaching, methodology classes, and teaching practices, which will be done for some months before the graduation of the student. And even the society also have its perspective to teaching, which eventually affects students. The society here in Nigeria perceives teaching profession to be very low. In fact, many people believe anybody can be a teacher, which is not supposed to be so, because maybe the belief is centered on the cause that maybe the curriculum of education can be easily carried out, or maybe there is low supply of qualified and competent teachers. But whatever may be the response or the answer, that there is free entry and exit into teaching profession, which eventually discourage many students. And the effect is that is the greater influence it has on career choice of students in Nigeria, such that teaching profession is not the #1 choice of the best and brightest students in Nigeria. And I've learned that in Finland, teachers are rated to be very high, and even primary school teaching is the most sought after. And you know, the best and brightest students in Finland will want to be a primary school teacher. And these case is not is contrary to each other. In Nigeria, even when I wanted to level, I chose teaching as a career, but my parents refused. I was actually encouraged by a neighbor who called me and said, "Brilliant one should be teacher. Who does not know cannot teach others what to know." So I was so